welcome to our interview today. I am so delighted to have with me Melissa d'Arabian, Food Network celebrity chef, mom extraordinaire, and just overall amazing person. Cookbook author, book author, pretty much there's nothing that Melissa can't do. And it's just a thrill to have her joining us today. So, Melissa, I've been watching you on Food Network. I love your healthy recipes. I love what you've done with your new book, Tasting Grace. Tell me about your inspiration for that book, and a little bit about what you talk about, the sort of mindfulness about appreciating the food that's presented to us and the connections that we make as people. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, so first of all, thank you for having me. Thanks, Rita. It's a joy to be here. Um, you know, I love food, and I love what feeding people can do and what it can mean. And I love that food tastes good. We could imagine a world where food didn't taste good. And I love that we can lean into that and celebrate that. And I love what food can be for a society, how it can bring us together, how it can connect us to one another, even when we're not in the same room. And so there's so much that I love about food. And yet at the same time, I also know that there are all these kind of mixed messages around food, and that we're kind of in this weird world where we feel like, oh, I'm being good by not, eating certain foods, or oh, I've been bad by eating these foods. And I just got kind of bombarded by these messages, as a member of our modern society, and as a mom, and as a woman, and I'm raising four young women. And so I kind of needed to sort of stop and say, okay, where is the joy in food? Where can we find connection points to replug into the joy and the gratitude and all the good stuff that food provides? And so you mentioned eating mindfully, and I guess also eating respectfully for our earth, and for the gift that food is, and for each other. And just sort of stopping long enough to say, we matter to each other, and who we are to each other, and who's sitting around our table matters really a lot more than how fancy the food is that is on the table. And so kind of going back into, really for me, a rediscovery of the joys of food, and how food can connect us, and how we can lean into nature and our food system.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about eating respectfully. And so much of the time here at the Spine Health Foundation, we talk about exercise as medicine. And we also talk about food as medicine. And a lot of times I think people get hung up on, finding healthy foods, or healthy foods have to be expensive, or it takes a long time to cook well for myself, and to, and to focus on wellness, and that journey of staying healthy and staying well. Melissa, you famously had a show on TV called $10 Dinners, and you famously have a book called Supermarket Healthy. Talk to us about some of your inspiration for that, for how to just, get into the kitchen and not make it complicated, and appreciate what's around you, and cook healthy meals for yourself and your family. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. It's just a great thing. So tell us about that.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up about, about it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. I think we kind of buy into this narrative that that we have to be really fancy in our food and in our preparation, and we sort of go down that slippery slope where we turn preparing food into a performance, and we even turn hospitality into a performance, right? We listen to the language of the food space, myself included. I'm sure that we could go back to episodes of $10 dinners, and I would say, oh, impress your family, impress your friends. When they come into your house, impress them with this,
Right.
this recipe that will make them think you spent hours in the kitchen. Lie to your family and friends. But
It
but
is fun to impress
but
people with what you can do. But
but and listen, there is a place for food as art for sure, and that there's beauty in that. But when we make that the litmus, the bar we have to clear on a Tuesday night when we're getting our family dinner, it feels really disempowering. It feels awful to feel like my simple Tuesday taco night is not enough. And I'm here to say it is enough. And I'm also here to say that, on the flip side, we've kind of also created this narrative in society that time in the kitchen is time wasted, and it's sort of like, don't be a schmuck cooking dinner every night. And listen, I know life is busy, but there is beauty and honor in the worthy work of celebrating our ingredients and feeding ourselves or feeding our friends or feeding our families. There's beauty in work. And so that doesn't mean that it has to be complicated. And that doesn't mean that we don't have busy, nights where we need to, grab a rotisserie chicken because, the kids all have soccer practice or whatever. But it does mean that, us sort of having to stop a little bit and give a little bit of time and work and energy to the very thing that is sustaining our bodies, is perhaps not a bad pause. It's perhaps an invitation and not an inconvenience. And so, finding that balance of, yep, life is busy,
yeah.
with also, what, let's also lean into it just a little bit. We can make a decent meal in 15 or 20 minutes, and it takes that long to get into a car and go and sit in line at In-N-Out. I promise you're not in and out in under 15 minutes. So I just want to kind of bring in the other side, which is, 15 or 20 minutes, we might just be worth it, and the joys of food might be worth it, even in busy modern life.
Right. I love what you said, that it's not an inconvenience. Think of it as an invitation. And certainly, we think about food as medicine, and that invitation to take the time to think about what you're going to feed yourself, because we want our bodies to perform for us, right? We want to play with our grandkids. We want to play with our children. We want to be able to take hikes and stay active and do all of those things. And we need our bodies to perform for us. So thinking of that as an invitation to really enjoy that process of feeding ourselves is fantastic. Melissa, you talked about all of us are busy. We lead busy lives. Give us a couple of tips of your favorite healthy snacks in a pinch or in a hurry, at the airport, at a gas station, where we might find ourselves.
Airport. I love your positive thinking that I might be at an airport anytime soon. What is
Not
an airport?
Maybe a gas station. I don't know.
I love that. But I'll tell you, first of all, I think it's really important to know yourself and know what foods make you feel good, right? Because what makes me feel good may not be what makes everyone feel good. So for me, I know, for instance, that I can pair almonds with just about anything, savory or sweet, and I can turn that into a meal or to a dessert. So for traveling, I always travel with my own almonds, always. And then wherever I am, like if I get like a really lackluster fruit cup at, the Starbucks at the airport, let's just say, and it's overpriced and it's lackluster and it's not great. I'm like, what? I'm spending $6 for like, underripe honeydew. Like, what's the world come to? But I know from experience that plus my almonds will make me feel good. So I think that in terms of like on the go and like mentioned when you're at a gas station or you're traveling or whatever, you're just in the car driving your kids to soccer or whatever, knowing what makes you feel good and trusting that rather than your own tired, cranky self that is like, I just need salt and fat and grossness.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like for me, when I travel, I know me. I I get tired and cranky and lose all sense of really what is best for me and what is most loving to me. And so I can sometimes just be like, I'll just grab whatever. So I think that I have kind of created this sort of big girl self, where I call it like putting on my big girl panties,
Yeah.
where I just, you know what, I do what I know is best for
Yeah.
me, and I just sort of acknowledge the tired me that is like, you're traveling, you're cranky, you're all these things, but I love you enough to sort of override that and bring in the almonds and the underripe honeydew melon. So I think that's kind of my best kind of on the go tip is know what works for you. I think nuts are great. Not everybody can eat nuts, but I love almonds because, and I always get unsalted almonds because I know that I feel better not having the extra salt on them. So I get unsalted almonds and I can have that with, you know, cheese on, a Delta flight, or I could have it with fruit, or I could have it, I could have it with a little piece of chocolate and feel like I've had dessert. I could have it. So there's just so many different ways I can
Right.
go with it. Or I
Right.
could just have like veggies, raw
So
veggies,
smart.
and then almonds. It makes me feel like I've had some protein. So that's
Smart.
that's kind of my best kind of traveling tip.
Yeah, I love that. And as you say, trust yourself that that's going to be enough. That's going to satisfy you and nourish you and be just what you need. And I think that is great, great, great advice. And one last
Rita, you
question.
just said something. Before we go to the next question, I want to pull out something you just said, which I love, and it's one of my favorite kind of not mantra, but sort of things that I think about, and that is trusting the food. And so because I'm somebody who loves to like eat. I love to eat. And so when I think about like having like a green salad instead of like a burger, like I I tend to want to have kind of the kind of stick to your ribs food. So I've developed this idea, this sort of saying, I don't know, just something I say to myself, which is, you know, trust this food to satisfy you. Just trust it. And trust that if it doesn't, you can get more afterward. And that has been a huge shift in my way of thinking about food over the past few years, which is trust your body to get what it needs out of this. And that's also what I say when I'm having like the lackluster honeydew melon. I'm naming something that I just don't really love. That just trust my body and trust this food to
Mhm.
do what it needs to do,
Yeah.
and then trust that I can get something afterward. If really that spinach salad doesn't fill me up and I really need a burger, then so be it.
Right. That's so smart. That's so, and that also kind of plays in with the sort of messages that we're bombarded with and
Yeah.
marketing messages that something simple and in a whole food, that's not processed, that's just all we need. That might be just enough what we need and try to trust that and see how it goes. And then if it's not, then there's always more options, but start with that and
That's right.
love that. That's amazing. That's a great message. Thank you. Thank you for underscoring that. That's great. So the last question I wanted to ask you about is I've seen on Facebook, you have a retreat coming up in Alaska that looks really, really amazing. Can you tell us about that? What the inspiration for that is and what you're doing with that?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's in the summertime. That's in July. It's the retreat in Alaska. I did it actually last year, and then it got postponed this year because of COVID. But that is truly going to Harvester Island. So I'm doing it with Leslie Fields, who actually kind of runs the retreat. She does retreats in Alaska on her family's salmon fishing island. So
Wow.
they are actually, it's an actual salmon fishing camp. Like their island is, that's their family business. That's what they do in Alaska. And so that she has these retreats during the summer. And it's this island that has like plenty of, space for people to sleep and to have retreats. And anyway, but you're there at this like working salmon fishing operation, like a family fishing operation. It's amazing. And we go for a week. And I mean, first of all, you've never eaten better food. And because it's all, I mean,
Wow.
literally like pulled from the Alaska waters, and then we're making fish. And it's just,
Amazing.
it's extraordinary. Leslie Fields is amazing. She, you know, teaches you how to make salmon jerky, and we made salmon jerky one afternoon. And where it's you can see how salmon is fished, and then there's the connection of like the food and the faith, and kind of leaning into the joys of food. And it's a small retreat, I want to say 15 or 20 people, so it's really small. So you really get to know the people that you're staying with, and you're in like the most beautiful part of the world that you could imagine. I
Sounds
mean, it
beautiful.
truly is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done in my entire life. Was to go to Harvester Island last year and do the retreat. It was a food and faith retreat. It was extraordinary. So yeah,
So great.
it's a really special event,
That sounds
and
really
I'm
amazing.
so looking forward to it.
That sounds amazing. Melissa, any last words you'd like to share with us? Anything that you want to share that's new in your life or old in your life that's still old but new? Any closing comments for us?
Doesn't everything feel like it's both very old and very new right now? At least for me, it feels that way. Um, but um, but I think I just would love to share that message of hope and joy, and that what a joy that in this world where we can't all be together in the same room, that the very screens that we used to think separated us are now bringing us together, and that we can kind of lean into that. And so I just want to share that little bit of hope that um, that we can still connect. And I think that food, if nothing else, we can see that food is as much as it is a delight and it tastes good. I think there's so much more joy that we can find even behind just the taste. For instance, in this kind of crazy time that neighbors are bringing lemons over to their other neighbor who can't get out and go to the grocery store, or they're doing grocery runs, or they're making food for each other. And I think food can be part of that, can be part of that story of bringing us closer together. And I think that food can bring us together. And sometimes we use food and our language in food to slightly separate ourselves. Language like impress your friends, that's kind of the language of separation. And I think that the kind of the good news is right now we are given this invitation into using food to bring us together. And so that's my hope, that we can, even the very next bite of food that we take, whether it be a granola bar or a farm to table dinner, that we can find the joy and the gifts and the invitations in that next bite of food. And I believe that it's that invitation is there. And so I hope that that's a message of optimism, that food can do that. I know that sounds like a tall order
No,
for a
that's
granola bar, but
so
I don't think it
beautiful.
is.
That's so beautiful. I love that. With great parting words that, I love that. Whether it's a granola bar or your 5 course meal, it's a gift. It's an invitation to appreciate
Mm,
that next bite and all that
yeah.
goes into bringing that bite to you. And And so thank you for that reminder, Melissa. Thank you for this time. I just so enjoyed talking with you. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy lady. Thank you, thank you. And where is the best place for us to follow you on social media? Speaking of school.
Here on Facebook, Melissa D. Arabian. Also on Instagram, Melissa D. Arabian, and also on Twitter, Melissa D. Arabian. I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we will follow you there. Thank you so much.